The following video was produced by EAA's Aeromedical Advisory Experts. For more information, please contact EAA Membership Services or visit our website at www.eaa.org.
Hi, my name is Dr. Greg Pinnell. I'm a flight surgeon and a member of EAA's Aeromedical Council. Currently, the way to get your FAA medical certification starts with an online application called MedXPress. MedXPress is relatively easy to use, but what I'd like to do today is take you through it page by page and show you how it works. There are a few tips that we can give you that can make the application process easier. Starting the process of MedXPress requires you to get to the website. The website address is www.medexpress.fa.gov. Various organizations also have links to it. But once you get to the opening page, if you've never done it before, the first thing you need to do is request an account. Now, many of you have probably requested accounts on various different websites and found it to be a pretty long process where you have to add a lot of information. This really is not that bad. When you click on Request an Account, the only information that you need to place is your last name, your first name, your middle name, an email address with confirmation, and then 3 security questions. The security questions that FAA has are pretty easy. The ones that I find that are the easiest to remember are city that you're born in, street you grew up on, and a father's first name. With our patients that come into the office, these are the ones that we usually get them to answer. With that, as in any type of website, you have all the disclaimers and Privacy Act statements. You need to click on that and then submit. When you click submit, this will provide a confirmation which will go to the email address that you provided. Once you get that email, it will provide you a temporary password which will bring you into the website and will allow you to do the application. Now, for those who have an existing account, getting into the application is a simple matter of adding your email address and your password. I'm going to do that right now and go in as me. And then place my password. And I'm now logged in. There is, of course, another Terms of Service Agreement and Privacy Act statement which you are free to read. I have a tendency to want to skip past that. Click on that I've read it, submit it, and now we're ready to open up the application. This involves simply clicking on the Open Application button. The first thing you're going to see is a list of items which will define what you are. Now, the vast majority of us will click on pilot, airman, student pilot, etc., and submit. Of course, we have another notification for Pilot's Bill of Rights. I'm going to click on I've read that and submit, and we'll get to the application process itself. One of the interesting things that changed about MedXPress is that in the newest version of it, it is page by page, whereas MedXPress used to be a single page that you would have to work down. It goes by sections. And the way it works now, the sections, you have to complete one section before you move to the next one. And I'll show you examples of that. In my case, I'm asking for an Airman Medical Certificate. I'm going for a second class and going to the next page. The first page that you're going to see is basically demographics. Now, some of that is preloaded. For example, my name is preloaded. Also, my pseudo social security number is loaded. Now, that's an interesting thing that you want to give a couple seconds of thought to. In MedXPress, you do not need to place your social security number in. If you do not want to provide your social security number, all you have to do is click on the box which says International, decline to submit, and a social security number which is made up of what we call a pseudo social security number will be provided for you, and that will populate this. This number is not my actual social security number. So I add in my address, put in my zip code, city, my state, USA, my phone number, the country that I have citizenship in, which is USA. Now, just a thought, I'm obviously going through here very quickly. These boxes have drop downs, so you can select from a list of countries or select from a list of states. Obviously, USA is up at the top, and we'll continue with that. Now, they do request and do require your date of birth. For me, it's May 30th. I have to go to the 30th. And then the year. On this one, it doesn't really allow you to put the year in on your own, so you have to slide down through it. So we slide down through old, older, get down into the 50s. Okay, now we're getting into prehistoric times, and we get into 56, and there is my year of birth. Hair color, blonde for me, and blue for the eyes, and sex, which is male. Now, there are some options at this point. If you're going to move past this section, you have the option of having the system check for errors. If any errors are found, they will pop up in this section. There were no errors made. I completed everything, so we're going to go to the next section. The next section, which is prior certifications, is the type of airman certificate that you currently hold. For me, the only thing that I have is a private, and I put in my instrument rating. It does ask for your occupation, but MedXPress allows you to skip this if you don't want to. One thing to note here, note this little red asterisk. The asterisk is in the spots where you have to provide information, and if you'll notice in occupation and employer there are no asterisks. I do not need to provide this information if I don't want. I will put my occupation in as flight surgeon and my company that I work for, which is AirDocs. In 13, it asks, has your FAA medical certificate ever been denied, suspended, or revoked? This has a tendency to confuse some pilots. Some pilots, for whatever reason, have had their airman certificate application deferred in pending additional information. This is not a denial. If you have been deferred, you do not have to put that you've been denied. If you have been denied, they require a date. If you don't know the date of your denial, the FAA can provide that information for you, or your local AME should be able to access that on the computer and should be able to give you that date. Now the next section, which is total civilian pilot time, in my case I have about 2,200 hours, and in the last 6 months I have had about 60 hours of flying time. Some people don't keep up their logbooks, so sometimes this is just an estimate, and I've actually had some pilots who apparently in the last year or 2 years have flown their aircraft backwards because they put less time in than they put before. This does not cause a problem with MedXPress. Date of the FAA, your last FAA medical application, this you should be able to gain from your FAA medical certificate that you hold. You should also be able to gain that information from your local AME, or if necessary contact the FAA and they can get that information for you. This is a little complex in MedXPress in that you need to go to the drop down, pick the month and the year of your last application, and then also click on the date. MedXPress does not allow you to enter this manually, so you have to use the drop down for it. In my case, it was 12/15 of 2013, so I will double click on that and that will populate. If you've had no prior application, or this is your first time making application, you simply click on the box no prior application, and that will take care of that field. The next section is medications. This is one of the sections that has a tendency to give airmen problems when they're doing their application. In the worst case scenario, the only thing you need to do to get a medication into MedXPress is simply have the name of the medication. You don't necessarily need the dosage or how frequently you take it. It's important to note that there are only a few medications that are significant from a point of what is your dosage. For example, prednisone is one of them. So for me, I have a couple medications that you take. I will check on yes. I will check on ASA for aspirin, and I will click add. And if you take a look, you'll see now aspirin, which is ASA, is in there. If you take another medication, for example, a common blood pressure medication, which is lisinopril, you don't necessarily need to put the dosage unit, or the frequency of taking it. You can simply put the medication in, click add, and it will populate. The next question after medications is 17B, and this is a question that confuses, I swear, over half the people who do the application. The question is, do you ever use near vision contact lenses while flying? It's important to note that this is a question which is specifying a type of contact lens which corrects for near and distance vision, one eye for near and one eye for distance. This is not a type of contact lenses that most people wear. Most people wear single vision contact lenses which correct both eyes the same. For the vast majority of pilots, they are going to want to click no to this. If you have questions about this, please feel free to ask your AME who can guide you on this. I would say that probably 30 to 40% of the people who do this application who wear contact lenses will answer this question incorrectly, and it's important to get this one right. With that, we'll go to next. The next section that we'll run into is medical history. This is a series of questions which ask, have you ever had any of these conditions? Not do you currently have these conditions, but have you ever had these conditions? And requires you to go down one by one and answer yes or no to each question. In the medical history section, I'm going to show you an example of how you provide information in this section. The vast majority of pilots will have mostly no's on this section, but I'm going to give you an example where we have to provide affirmative answers. For me example, I'm going to check yes to dizziness or fainting spell. I'm also going to check yes to admission to hospital and other illness, disability, or surgery. Below the medical history section, there are two questions that you need to pay particular attention to. One is V, which requires you to provide information if you have a history of any arrests and or convictions involving driving while intoxicated by, while impaired by, or while under the influence of alcohol or a drug. It's a good idea if you have questions on this or the question which is below it regarding misdemeanors and felonies to contact your local AME and or the FAA to ask them, do I need to put yes or no to this? In my case, I will put no to V, and thankfully I will be also putting no to history of non-traffic convictions, misdemeanors, or felonies. Below this is a box that you need to click if you have provided any yes answers. This is for adding comments. Now, adding comments always gives pilots a little bit of consternation because they're not sure what to put in, whether to provide too much information or too little information. Again, I always suggest that you contact your local AME or the FAA if you have any questions here. You can also contact EAA's office. EAA has a division which is specific for medical, and they can also help guide you through this. In my case, for dizziness or fainting spells, I can put for 2002, I fainted after dehydration from gastroenteritis. And then as far as missions to hospital, when I was 7 and 9 years old, at age 7, I had my tonsils removed. At age 9, I had my appendix removed. Below this, under other illness, disability, or surgery, this section's kind of a catch-all. If you have something in the medical history which doesn't nicely fit into any of the other boxes, such as hypothyroidism, you can put this here. In my case, I had a mole removal in 1979. There's also a section down below as far as general explanations pertaining to medical history. This is another one, another area that you can also put any comments in that don't fit nicely into the sections above. The only thing I suggest with this is be careful how much information that you provide in here. It has a character limit. And if you put too much information in here, when we open up your MedXPress application, we may have to narrow this down because it may actually go over the character limit and we may actually have to delete part of it. Finally, the last section of your application is visits to healthcare professionals in the last 3 years. One of the questions I commonly get from pilots, hey, I just did this application a couple years ago. Do I need to put all those old visits? Well, actually, no, you don't need to. One good strategy here is to make sure that you get a copy of your last application for medical. That way you can see the visits that you've placed already, and then you can move forward from that. That application can be gained from your local AME, can also be gained from the FAA by calling up FAA and asking for a copy of your last application. In my case, I have had one visit to healthcare professional. I'm going to check yes. I'm going to put down the month and year of the application, which for me was October of 2015. Please note here that you do not have to have the actual date of it. It only requires in this section that you provide the month and the year. The name of the provider was Dr. Coughlin. I don't have to put her street in. I don't have to put her city in. I do, however, have to put the state that she was seen in. Otherwise, it won't let us get past this section. I will put down Michigan. I don't need to put the zip code if I don't want to. I do have to put the state, or excuse me, the country, which is USA. I will put the type of professional. She is family practice. And the reason was routine visit. In here, you can also put the type of provider that they were and also the specific reason that you saw them. With that, we click Add. And as you see as we come down, that will now populate. Okay, you're now almost done with your medical application. You have a couple options here. If you feel you need to go back a page and correct some information or add additional information, you can go to the previous page. You have the option to save it and complete it later if you don't have time to finish now, or if you want to make sure that you've provided accurate information or want to make sure that you vet the information by someone to make sure it's not going to jeopardize your light sport privileges. You can also at this point even cancel the application if you decide I don't want to do it at all and I want to kick out of it for right now. You can also check for errors. I'll do an error check on here, and it looks like we have done it completely right because we see no error messages up in the area where error messages are normally seen. So we'll scroll down. We'll go to Next. Okay, you're almost done. But I want to take a second to talk about item 20. Every time you complete an FAA medical application, it gives the FAA the ability to take a look at your National Driver Registry one time. You have to click yes on this, otherwise you cannot finish the application. Then going down further, we get to submit my application. Now, to submit the application, all you need to do at this point is simply put your password. You add your password and submit, and with that you're done. Now if you take a look, you'll see a confirmation number. Write that confirmation number down. That confirmation number is also going to come out to you via email, so you'll have it a couple different ways. Your AME is going to need that application number, that confirmation number, for the process of completing your FAA medical. Now, after you've completed your FAA medical application and you've gained your confirmation number, one of the things that you can do is actually take a look at your application and print it out and/or save it. It comes up in the form of a PDF. Now, I strongly suggest two things. Number one, save the application to your desktop or some file on your computer. The second thing, which is a good strategy, is print it out. If you're concerned about providing any medical information which may jeopardize your light sport privileges, what you can do is you can take this to your AME during the course of your exam and let them take a look at this first before they import your application. This gives your AME a last chance to take a look and see if you actually should apply or not. Finally, I'd like to show you a few things on the website which are useful tools and have really improved since the last version of MedXPress. The first is Account. Now, under My Account, you have the ability to change information such as your email address. Also, you can change your password. You can change your security questions as well. In the Help section, there are 4 drop-downs. The first is Frequently Asked Questions, which will help you out as far as working through MedXPress. The second drop-down is How to Contact FAA if you're having problems with MedXPress. The good news about this section is the phone number that they provide is answered 24/7. And I will tell you, they're quite quick about picking up the phone, and they can usually handle any problem that you're having. The next section of Help is a user guide. FAA has actually developed a full user guide on how to fill out MedXPress. It is comprehensive, it is very good, it's a little wordy, but it will help you if you have any specific questions. The final drop down under Help is an instruction guide. The instruction guide goes through question by question and gives you tips on how to answer them. It does not tell you what to answer, but it simply tells you how to answer the question. So that's FAA's MedXPress process. It's relatively simple, and there are plenty of resources to help you if you have problems. The first should be your local aviation medical examiner who can help you with specific questions. Also, if you have problems with the website, FAA's My IT phone number, which is located on the website, can help you. EAA also has a phone number that you can contact EAA Experimental Aircraft Association for specific questions or questions on how to fill out MedXPress. With that, the process should be simple. We want it to be easy for you. I'm Dr. Greg Pinnell for EAA's Aeromedical Advisory Council.